Welcome to the Odds Breakers, #1 place for shared sharp betting information.
Welcome back to podcast 26 of 2024. I'm your host, Kiev O'Neil. You can follow me on Twitter at OBKiev. Follow us at the Odds Breakers. Follow us on social media / the Odds Breakers. This episode is being brought to you by BetMGM. Bet $5, get $150 worth of free bets. Just click on the link to this podcast description. Terms, conditions, and location apply. If you'd like to support the Odds Breakers and benefit from our premium plays, please visit theoddsbreakers.com. Click on Become a Member. Pick any. For winning cappers, get the premium plays before the line moves. You can also support us on patreon.com. And if nothing else, please visit the Odds Breakers and become a free Picks and Telegram subscriber. What a crazy weekend of March Madness, my friends. And can you believe it? A 11 seed in NC State has advanced to the Final Four.
Unreal.
You know, I think it's almost as improbable as what we saw with Florida Atlantic coming on in last year. Florida Atlantic was a higher-ranked team, though, on the Ken Poms and things like that. NC State wasn't going to even be in this tournament unless they won their ACC tournament. And then, seriously, we're talking about how they're 85-1 to win the ACC tournament and they make the Final Four. What was the price on that? 150-1? You know, you got to give them a ton of credit. They've definitely improved their basketball. And DJ Burns, like I said in the beginning of the tournament, maybe the funnest guy to watch in this whole NCAA March Madness. But I'll also say that when you're a team like NC State, you need things to happen for you. You need some luck to happen. When they played Marquette couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. You know, they couldn't hit anything. And it was just one of those situations that anyone could have beat Marquette that day. They got to play Oakland instead of Kentucky. And then obviously in the final Elite Eight game, Duke was dead. Duke was winning at the half by 5 or 7 points, something like that. I think it was 5 points. And then they went completely cold. Duke couldn't hit nothing from free. I tweeted out, it's like they used the force to veer the ball from hitting anything close to the rim. And I'm talking wide open shots here. So that helped them too. But at the same time, they still improved their basketball and their defense. So it's kind of like two things that happened for them that went really well. The team got better, and the other teams that they happened to be playing were just not hitting. You know? I mean, didn't the Oakland game go overtime with them? You know? And that's what you got to look at. You look at the spread for next week, and Purdue is a 9-point favorite. You know? It's like it's a market spread. It's not an efficiency spread. I think if it was an efficiency spread, Purdue would be an 11 or 12-point favorite. Let's just take a look here. If Haslametrics has this stuff come up, I know Ken Pom has this as an 11-point favorite. Looks like Torvik's got 11.1 point favorite for Purdue. But it's 9 because people are just scared of what you've seen, you know? And they're playing Zach Edey, playing the Boilermakers. Free throw machines over there. Lots of complaining going on. I've complained myself some. But it is what it is. They're officiating him, and he does get fouled a lot, but he also fouls a lot. It's just one of those situations, and I'm not going to keep beating it to death, but either way, do you expect Zach Edey to not get DJ Burns in foul trouble? You know, I kind of do. And then you have UConn versus Bama as an 11.5 point favorite. I mean, if UConn's really 2 or 3 points better than Purdue, you're basically saying that Alabama is the same as NC State with this spread. You know, that doesn't make a ton of sense. But your early looks, 9-point favorite for Purdue, total 146, and Bama, an 11.5 favorite, total 161.5. You can't even parlay these money lines and come anywhere close to minus 200. If you parlay Purdue and UConn going to the finals, you only get minus 263 on that. You have to lay $263 to make $100, right? I mean, that's how big these favorites are still. Do I want to mess with the dog? Not really. I mean, I've been wrong about NC State and Alabama, and they've kind of crushed my betting over the weekend. I didn't have a great weekend like I did before, beginning of this NCAA tournament, but it is what it is. Alabama's here. They took care of Clemson. Clemson went cold. Bama went hot. Sears is hitting from 3. But the question that you have to ask yourself is, can UConn find it tough against Alabama? Can they have their bad game yet? Well, they haven't yet because they're up by 5 against Illinois, lost that first half bet by a half point. Shannon couldn't get that last shot in, and then Illinois didn't score until the game was 3 quarters over. Couldn't even score in the second half. Bama went up, or UConn went up from being 5 points to 35 points. It was just ridiculous seeing their score just sitting there at 23. So what's going to happen with Bama? Possibly the same thing, but Bama just plays so fast and so reckless. It's going to go one way or the other, really bad or really good for Bama. Very, very interesting handicaps coming up here. I think that if you believe that Purdue is 2 or 3 points worse than UConn, and you believe that Alabama is better than NC State, you're probably betting Purdue at -9. But I also wonder if a team total for Purdue is a little bit safer because there's money coming on the under. That's probably because of the NC State side. The under worries me a little bit. I just think Purdue can possibly put up a ton of points. I think a team total is probably a little bit safer on both sides of the game. Team total over. But usually in these big Final Four championship type games, the under is a pretty popular hit. And NC State Duke went under, even though Duke started fouling with like 2 minutes left. About 30 some points were scored in that last 2 minutes. And that scared the hell out of underbettors, but it still went under after that. Our under hit when we gave it out as a premium play for the Purdue game. So that I thought that Tennessee Purdue, the total was too high at 148.5. I waited till it got to 148.5. It was at 147.5. Hit it under and ended up going to 137. Just because these games, a lot of stress and a lot of pressure on these kids. Hard to shoot. Defense travels. Some cases, the refs swallow their whistle. Not so much on the side of Purdue, but either way, that's how it is. And we have a Final Four. Obviously, if I could redo my bracket, I'd have Purdue in it. Just couldn't quite trust them. Tennessee was the one I had, so there you go. I still had UConn winning it all, and I still have our 10-1 on UConn, which I didn't hedge yet, winning it all. So hoping that one comes through. Was able to hedge my Clemson 35-1 to make the Final Four, so that was nice. Had a nice bet on Bama. So futures-wise, it's been a pretty good tournament. As far as the Survivor, we're splitting $8,000 8 ways. It was a $50 buy-in because one guy completely screwed up. Completely. The guy had already used Bama. He already used UConn. He already used Purdue. And he instead just decided to pick Duke like the rest of us. There's only 4 of us left until Duke. But the rule is you have to win both games in your Elite 8 in order to advance. Otherwise, you split the pot. So 4 guys were going to be out. We're all on Duke. I was shocked that the guy drawing dead was on Duke because I had UConn left. Sean Kanaki on the odds breakers was still in it himself. Ironically, me and him were still in the Survivor pool. He had Alabama left. One guy actually had Purdue left. So we were probably going to split $8,000 with one guy, me or Sean. Probably me since I had Purdue. I was going to make a little deal with Sean anyway, but this guy was drawing dead and he didn't switch his pick, which he could have when at the end of the Purdue game. He could have switched it to NC State because it didn't matter if he was going to lose if Duke won anyway, because I would have had UConn and Sean would have had Alabama. Massive mistake. At least he still gets $1,000, but he cost himself $7,000 on that mistake. That's the fun about Survivor. I'm happy to split the pot 8 ways, but I sure as heck would have rather had Duke win. Thank God I put a nice big bet on the money line on NC State myself before this thing started. But we still have NIT action. Utah versus Indiana State. Indiana State minus 2.5, total 163.5. I don't trust Utah away from home. I think they become a completely different team, even though they have the size with Carlson against Robbie Avila. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, they call him. He's a really good player, big dude, fun to watch. Maybe the second funnest guy to watch during March Madness, or during the whole season, really, for Indiana State. He's fun to watch. But I don't trust Carlson that much. I think he makes boneheaded defensive mistakes sometimes. Whenever they go away from home. Hell, they lost to Colorado by 14 points. Colorado's a good team, but they lost their Pac-12 conference tournament. They lost their last 2 away games against Oregon by 7 and Oregon State even. They even lost to Oregon State. Oregon by 1, actually, but Oregon State, that was ugly. It's probably a good spread there. Might look at the total in this situation. It's pretty high. I know Indiana State plays extremely fast, and Utah plays pretty fast themselves. So that's why you see such a high total of 163.5. I would still lean to the under in this situation. And, of course, Georgia versus Seton Hall. Seton Hall is about a 4-point favorite. Total 145.5. Georgia playing some amazing ball lately, but Seton Hall is just a better team. Seton Hall was very close to making the tournament themselves. Georgia been just road warriors and taking care of business, but man, Seton Hall's beating these teams by double digits. Minus the first St. Joseph game, they beat North Texas and UNLV by double digits. And then they have Georgia here playing on a neutral court in Indianapolis at the Hinkle Fieldhouse. That's where this is going to be. So I'm going to look a little bit more into that for premium subscribers. But I will give you a lean at Purdue at minus 9. I'm not going to give it out as a play until I look into it a little bit better. I might even have it shortly after this podcast for premium subscribers. If you'd like to be a premium subscriber, please visit theoddsbreakers.com and click on premium plays. We have a ton of baseball going on. UFC on the weekends. It's going to be a heck of a fun summer. Obviously, the NFL draft coming up, where we're going to be starting to write some articles and talk about all the props that we love to play in the NFL draft. Thanks for listening to this show. I hope you have a wonderful week, and go get some.